It's 2003 on a highway in rural eastern Honduras, and a small engine plane is coming into land on the asphalt. An odd sight, perhaps, but not that odd. This place is really rural. A few scattered villages in the shadow of a mountain, surrounded by jungle, and almost 6 hours from the capital city, Tegucigalpa. But the plane taxis, turns, and parks outside a farm belonging to Juan Matta Ballesteros. Recognize the name? He's the son of Juan Matta Ballesteros, Honduras' most famous narco, cartel matchmaker, political puppet master, and, since 1990, a resident of the US penitentiary Canaan in Pennsylvania. Back then, Matta the Elder was one of the biggest scalps in America's war on drugs. Lawmakers had taken triumphantly to the media, heralding the end of the Honduran narco state. They were wrong. In Latin America, drugs are a family business. And in Honduras, where the ties between narcos, corrupt politicians, and military leaders are tighter than a leather harness in a Kansas kink club, there was just too much money flowing through the Matta cartel for anything to actually end upon his arrest. 10 years previous, in 1993, Matta's brother-in-law had been arrested for shipping huge quantities of coke into the US via Costa Rica. And now, in 2003, as the plane's engines die and campesinos emerge from the farm to load it with bales of valuable cargo, investigators are beginning to realize that tiny Honduras never got over its addiction to drug money. Everybody, even the president of the nation himself, is in on the take. And despite the attempts of a valiant few, the country is already hurtling towards murder, mayhem, and a military coup that will change the face of the region's trafficking for decades to come. This is the Underworld Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly crime podcast that trades in facts and not speculation, which combined with poor personal and financial choices is why neither of its hosts will ever achieve true wealth. I am Sean Williams, and as you can see, I am in New York City with Danny Gold. This is exciting, pretty new, weird, isn't it? Yeah. We're going to tell you very little about the past few days in New York, except that the steak at 5 Leaves is pretty solid, and they should probably add at least another bathroom.
Yeah, look at this. Sean in New York in the Spotify studios for the first time. First off, Kansas King Club. I don't even know what that entails.
Sounds good though, doesn't
if you've been to one or if they exist. Second off, yes, Sean's first time ever here in Spotify studios recording with us. It is bright though, right? Like I'm warranted in wearing the sunglasses sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, so I put them on right now?
Yeah, go on, do it.
It's like there are lights here, guys. You can't, it's bright in this studio. I'll take them off, don't worry. This is a monumental occasion having Sean here. I thought there would be some sort of celebration or moment in Spotify when we walked in, but it turns out only like 2 or 3 people who work here actually know or care who we are. So we did get a bunch of free snacks though, so that's always great. As for our weekend here, I still feel deep amounts of shame. It's been like 4 or 5 days of what transpired between me and Sean and audio producer Dale on our night out in Brooklyn. Sean may have gotten thrown out of somewhere that you really should not get thrown out of. We might have made some new friends in the parking lot that we probably shouldn't have, that told us a lot about the crimes they've committed in Canada.
Yeah.
So don't do that to strangers if you're allegedly on the run. I don't even know. If I could go back in time though, I would probably not have gone through with that night, or would have liked to have woken up somewhere where there was like a puppy or something else to make me feel better, but none of that came true. Anyway,
yeah,
glad to have you here, but I'm gonna take these off.
Could have that night could have ended way earlier, but anyway, it didn't, and we are cool grown-ups with great lives. Moving on. In addition to these shows, if you want to get bonus interviews, episodes, ad-free shows, show notes, reading lists, head over to patreon.com The Underworld Podcast, where you can get all that for just a few bucks a month. And judging by the price of everything in the States, isn't it expensive in New York? Oh, what an original thought. Yeah, it's pretty good value to get on our Patreon. And no, I won't leave a Google review for your $7 flat white, Mr. Brooklyn Cafe Man. And you guys can still buy teas, hoodies, mugs at our website, underworldpod.com, and send us emails. We've had tons of good ones lately. The underworldpodcast@gmail.com. There's way worse stuff to spend your money on, right, Danny? Like, actually, yeah, just a few miles from the studio. There's quite a lot more.
No more,
stuff.
dude. I can't do this at my age anymore. I gotta stop.
No, we should. We should probably stop talking about that for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Anyway, Honduras. A few weeks ago, we did a show about the rise and fall of Juan Matta Ballesteros, a pickpocket who became an emerald smuggler, then got involved in cocaine, connected Colombian coca producers with distributors in Mexico and the US, and he did a fair bit of international drug trafficking himself. We also got into the history of Honduras, how its elites leveraged their connections to colonial administrators and later foreign fruit magnates to reap all of the country's wealth and dominate its politics, which in turn made them incredibly easy to corrupt and either turn a blind eye to or get involved in the cocaine trade. So if you haven't already listened to that show, might give you a good bit of background knowledge for this one, but you can also enjoy this one alone. But that episode ended, as I mentioned in the cold open, with the 1990 conviction of Matta for trafficking and other charges, and the hopes by many that it would bring an end to Honduras' position as one of Latin America's premier narco states.
Turns out not a good hope to have.
Mm-mm.
Wish I could have gone back in time and bet on that if like Kalshi or Polymarket exist. Which Kalshi or Polymarket, you should be sponsoring us. Like we are your geopolitical gambling guys right here. Make it happen.
Even given the show we're going to record after this.
Yeah.
Anyway, for pour a lot of cold water on the hope and the aspirations of law enforcement and some people in Honduras, that hope that things would end with the narco state stuff, it ends. It does end.
The hope ends.
The hope ends.
Yeah,
the hope.
Yeah. Not the cocaine trafficking.
Not the cocaine
that
trafficking.
That continues.
It's the hope that kills you, and it's the hope. It's the knowing that the hope will kill you that kills you. In the words of Jackson Lamb. Anyway, here's the book Bribes, Bullets, and Intimidation, which I used a lot for the Matta episode. It goes, quote, "All who harbored hopes that the removal of Juan Ramon Matta Ballesteros would substantially curb Honduran drug trafficking were soon disappointed. In fact, as the cocaine trade took hold, Matta had often been traveling abroad. Many traffickers, foreign and domestic, had recognized the significant bridge-favoring factors associated with Honduran transshipment. Some, like the Rodriguez Orejuela brothers leading the Cali Cartel, had already successfully transshipped large quantities of cocaine through the country and were poised to capitalize further. Thus, the cocaine flow continued apace after Matta's removal." I've always got to be careful when reading these dense academic books and quoting them, that it's quite hard to actually say them out loud.
Yeah, and people tune out.
And people should realize that when they write books. Anyway, that's a bit of a uh-oh for everyone involved in trying to smash the drug trade in Honduras. Now, when Juan Matta Ballesteros is arrested, Honduras doesn't even have a law on the books to go after the proceeds of crime, which is nuts. So despite him sitting in a US prison, his empire, which stretches in some places as far as Spain, it just keeps rolling on. His brother-in-law is arrested in 1993 for shipping product from Costa Rica into the US, and the following year, Honduras finally does christen the proceeds of crime law, and officials start hunting down Matta's mountain of cash, and they seize his properties in Tegucigalpa.
What's interesting is that I think back then, I assume, it really was mountains of cold hard cash. It wasn't now where everything's just numbers on a screen. You could have gone out to his properties. I don't know how protected they were, and just started digging around the backyard, like Tony, when they're digging out, and probably found mountains and mountains of cash. That's always such a fascinating element of being a massive drug dealer back in those days. What actually to do with all of the bills that you had? There's those stories of rats getting to something, just eating millions and millions of dollars of bills and stuff like that. So maybe it's still out there, buried somewhere in plastic.
Yeah. Let's go find it. Let's have another fun night out, but in Honduras. It's going to take incredibly, until 1998 for officials there to pass a law criminalizing the laundering of narcotics-related proceeds. However, writes a US Embassy cable, quote, "Weaknesses in the law, including a narrow definition of money laundering, have made it virtually impossible to successfully prosecute the crime." So, yeah, plus the change. Honduran leaders have to be dragged kicking and screaming into passing these laws, much less enforcing them, because obviously they're all on the take. Just like the country's cops, chronically underpaid and unwilling to investigate increasingly deadly drug cartels. You see, all through this period, murder rates are rising through Honduras. And part of that reason is this crumbling state capacity, soaring corruption. Another reason is guns. So a big reason that Juan Matta Ballesteros has managed to become so successful was by getting protection from the US by using his own airline to ship guns, ammo, and personnel to Nicaraguan anti-communists, the so-called Contras, during their civil war. That conflict had ended in 1990 as Americans were coming to terms with the Iran-Contra affair, but it leaves a shit ton, I think that's the technical term, a shit ton of weapons and ammunition in Honduras ready to be, one, used by organized crime, and two, to be sold for huge profits to rebels in neighboring countries, most notably Colombia's leftist FARC. So this creates a tinderbox, of course. Not only do these huge weapon caches, by some counts there are over 500,000 guns in a country of 6.5 million people, not only do they make them richer and more dangerous, but they also tool up the FARC and other rebels in cocaine producing areas of the Andes, meaning that everybody who's making or selling drugs has more capacity to make and sell drugs, more money to recruit, and more weapons to kill anybody in their way.
So another thing that starts happening around this time, I don't know if we're going to get into it because it's sort of related, but not really, is that, this is really when mid-90s to late 90s is really when MS-13 and 18th Street start showing up in Central America. And of course, El Salvador really gets all the attention, but it also happened in Guatemala and Honduras, right? Because you have these gangs that were formed in LA, both MS-13 and 18th Street, that they started getting deported. A lot of them had fled the civil war in El Salvador. I think fled Honduras as well. They end up in LA. They start getting deported in the 90s because of change in the law. A lot of them were felons. They get deported, and they just start showing up in these countries. In El Salvador and Honduras, where there's just complete vacuum of power. There's really no one to take control, and there's no like big gangs like that. Also, tons of guns, like we're just discussing right now. And they kind of start forming, and they just get sent there, and it's kind of like a free-for-all. They don't really get powerful, I would say, until like the mid-2000s, and that happens because of the situation you're describing. But then they get scary pretty quickly. Like I said, El Salvador gets all the attention, but Honduras, and to a lesser degree Guatemala, they had a big MS-13, 18th Street thing too.
Yeah, it's not like the consolidation of gangs in, say, Mexico now is making anything particularly safer, but at this time in Central America, there's just thousands of people out for themselves, and they're all armed to the teeth. It's pretty wild. But now we're into the early 2000s, right? And this is when everything kind of changes in Honduras' narco scene. And that's because it's when a small group of friends and family members from the east of the country, which is just a stone's throw from Ramon Matta's farm in the cold open, they make a pact with one of the most powerful business families in the country. And that will cement a partnership that will soon be worth almost $1 billion. In Honduras, $1 billion. That's pretty nuts. Los Chachiros, which is Spanish for the Cachiros, had emerged as cattle ranchers, and then rustlers, which is nicking cattle, in the 1970s in the eastern coastal state of Colón. And these are poor people. They're selling maybe a dozen cattle at a time. They're sleeping in their cars after doing deals across the country instead of staying in hotels. But they soon realize they're better off not going it alone. They soon begin selling cattle to a meatpacking firm owned by the Rosenthal family, which is a prominent clan based in San Pedro Sula, Honduras' second city. And then they start banking with the Rosenthals. The Rosenthals are a big, big piece in this week's puzzle. So let's get into it a bit. Their life in Honduras begins in the 1920s, which is when Yankel Rosenthal, a Romanian Jew, travels from Eastern Europe to Central America. And then he meets the daughter of a big coffee-producing family in Honduras, and he stays. Yankel intends to head on then to the United States, but the 1929 financial crash persuades him to stay put. He settles in the northern city of San Pedro Sula, which is a key logistics hub into the Caribbean, where he partners with Arab and Turkish migrants to build wealth in shipping related to the all-powerful banana industry. We did get back to that in the one about Matta Ballesteros. Yankel then uses this wealth to send his kids to elite schools, particularly his son Jaime, who gets undergrad and master's degree from MIT in Massachusetts. And in the 60s, this education appears to pay off when Jaime diversifies the Rosenthal's empire, grows wildly rich, and in 1974, he founds Banco Continental, which expands by focusing on commercial enterprises, particularly in coffee and agriculture. Jaime is frugal, and he stays late in the office telling friends and employees that, quote, a fortune is made by saving. Well, as Jaime's father could readily tell him, it's also about making the right friends. In 1986, Jaime becomes Honduras' vice president. He also has a stab at the presidency, unsuccessfully as well at this time, which makes him, of course, one of the most powerful men in the country. He resigns 3 years later, but he returns to politics in 2002 as a congressman, by which time Honduras' narco trade is booming and its key state functions are dominated by elites and oligarchs. Banco Continental and Jaime Rosenthal are the perfect fit for the Cachiros. By glomming on to one of Honduras' most powerful men, the Cachiros go from redneck cattle rustlers to rural elites. And they collaborate with Rosenthal to win state contracts to build roads, homes, and other big-ticket jobs, not to mention closer ties to political elites in San Pedro Sula and Tegucigalpa.
So wait, who are the Chachiros? Like they're a family, a group, a clan, just a bunch of buds who have a business together?
There's a family at the center of it. The Rivera Maraidagas. I'm going to struggle to say their name every episode. And then there's a few smattering of their family members, and then there's a few buddies. So they're just like a family, a few friends that started out with cattle in this like really rural part of the east of the country. And they soon realize when they're going over to like San Pedro Sula, oh, we can kind of like glom on to these elites, see what we can get out of them. And then they kind of start working together in finance and stuff like that.
So they're like a small sort of like business group based on a family that like does this like cattle ranching and whatever.
Yeah.
And they link up with this banking family to like get more funding for their businesses, whatever it is, to form a partnership.
Yeah, exactly. And like there's a good bit in a piece that I read that describes, like I said before, how when some of these guys were going out to the big city to sell their cows, they're like literally sleeping in their flatbeds. They're not even like in hotels because they don't have the money. They're just like dirt poor, roughneck guys from the jungle. But they don't stay that way for long. And it's kind of like it's a symbiotic relationship. So around this time, so the early 2000s, the Cachiros also begin to befriend folks in the country's underworld because why not? Especially when you own massive tracts of land that no one's keeping an eye on. Most notably, the brothers in charge of the Chachiros, here we go, Javier and Davis Rivera Maraidaga.
It's a good effort.
Yep, yeah, we'll get by with that. Get close to a guy named El Coque. And El Coque is Spanish for, can you guess, Danny?
The coque?
No, it means the Coke. Jesus Christ. Anyway, El Coque is similar to the Cachiros. He's from the east like them. And he straddles the legitimate and illegitimate worlds. He's got money in banking. And he also has a congressman on his side too. Only in his case, it's by dating the guy's daughter.
Yeah, I mean, for our younger listeners, this is a very important lesson to learn about the right way to do things. The way that Jaime did things, right? Or his father did things, which is like getting a really good education, working hard, staying late in the office, like being frugal, saving your money. That's actually not the right way to succeed and do things in life. The right way to do it is to start dating powerful guys' daughters.
True.
Because that really just, you skip a lot of the other stuff and just get right elevated to the top.
True, but you've always then got to like blow up all those relationships with bad behavior. And then fall back on journalism, which is like a booming industry.
Is there a story? Did you date a powerful guy's daughter?
I just lost my mind.
Well, the Sean lore, like even I am still learning things about the life of Sean Williams. I might remember someone from back in the day, but I don't remember exactly which Prince Andrews.
Hell no. No, it doesn't. I think I'm still getting over the weekend. Anyway, yes, dating powerful men's daughters.
What's up, guys? I want to tell you about something I've been using that is just like changing the game, blowing my mind. It's called wave.co. And it's an app. It's changed my life and the way that we make the show. It is an AI note-taking app for interviews, podcasts, meetings, phone calls, any audio. I mean, you guys know Underworld, we do a ton of research and interviews and all that. Keeping track of everything, getting everything together is a nightmare. It's so much information. Wave solves all of that. It records, it transcribes, and it summarizes the conversations automatically in like a super useful way. We use it for our research and interviews, but honestly, it's just as useful if you're like a lawyer, a student, or anyone who has to capture important details. I think, Sean, did you use it for like one of your recent long form articles?
Oh yeah, I'm writing a story today in the next couple days deadline, and it has 25 interviews, something like that, and transcribing them all myself would be not only horrific but take around a month. So yeah, using AI to transcribe it is saving my life.
Yeah, I mean, it rules. Like Wave.co, legit game changer. Probably the most useful thing I've used in terms of AI. It'll save you time. It'll save you effort. You can use it for your own interviews, phone calls, whatever. I mean, if you're doing research, if you're running a business, you honestly can't find something more useful. I mean, if you're a student, use it for class lectures, panels, anything. You can even ask it questions about the material and it answers. And it just summarizes the important stuff so easily. You can try it out for free. It works for most major languages. It's got a 4.9 rating on Apple apps, 10,000 positive reviews, hundreds of millions of minutes analyzed. It's way better than just some recording app. There's some other apps that do this kind of stuff, but this is like the OG, most trusted, privacy first, SOC-2 compliance or SOC 2 compliance. Wave.co, go there, download it now. You get a free trial. See how useful it is. Guys, we've talked to you about this before. Quince, just amazing, amazing clothing, like luxurious stuff for really, really affordable prices. And now we've got cold mornings, you've got holiday plans. This is when I want my wardrobe to be simple, but like look sharp, looks good. You know me and Sean, we're men of luxury. We're men of taste. We want to look good. I want stuff that I'll actually wear. And for me, that is Quince. And the bonus, Quince pieces make great gifts too for the man or woman in your life. I mean, this season's lineup is simple but smart and easy. There's stuff that I got from like the Mongolian cashmere sweater, $50. It feels like luxurious stuff that I should not be able to afford. Wool coats that are equal parts stylish and durable. They've got great denim. I mean, look on the site. It is incredible. What did you get from them?
Shirt. It was really, really nice. Black shirt, really great fit. Yeah, it's like
Saturday night when we went out. Our audio producer Dale, who also got a short button out for them.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, this looks incredible.
Yeah, that was the first thing you said when we met up.
He just also looks cool though in general. But Quince is gonna help you look great. Yeah, Quince also has anything for home, bath, kitchen, or travel to share or keep this holiday. It's great stuff. Give and get timeless holiday staples. That last this season with Quince. Go to quince.com/underworld for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/underworld. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/underworld.
El Coque, yes, El Coque, Honduras. We're doing a podcast, aren't we? He's also in the cocaine trade because at this point, everybody is. And he and the Cachiros build a pretty significant partnership quarterbacking flights from South America into Honduras before sending them off to the United States. That is the main thing going on now, the flights, right? There's also stuff by boat we'll get into in a minute. So you have this connection between two big narcos, El Coque and the Chachiros. The Chachiros are in bed with Jaime Rosenthal. And unlike when Juan Matta Ballesteros was in control of Honduras' drug scene, now things are fragmented. There are tensions building between rival groups over land, access to politicians. They've kind of like all got their own pet politician. That's how it seems to work at the time. The politicians themselves are scheming and backstabbing more over their own access to the cocaine trade. Mexicans are seizing bigger chunks of the industry from rivals in Cali, which anyone who's watched Narcos will know well. They're richer and more powerful than ever. And everybody in this picture is armed to the back teeth thanks to the weapons left over from the Nicaraguan Civil War. And so you can see how this whole thing is heading down a pretty dangerous path. The Cachiros seem to be the master manipulators throughout all of this. They cement power in their home state of Colón by keeping the chief of police on their payroll. And they expand into San Pedro Sula thanks not only to their connection to Rosenthal, but a top cop in the region named Carlos Alberto Valladares, a.k.a. El Tigre. That's the tiger.
Yeah,
you got
that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
name.
Valladares has risen through the ranks to become chief of police in a number of municipalities surrounding San Pedro Sula. Let's just say, not because he's a gifted investigator per se. He's a naughty boy with a bad habit, Daddy. A bad habit for drugs.
A bad habit for
Yes.
drugs.
I wondered if you get that
Come
one.
on, man.
Yeah, good.
Well played. I mean, I hope some of our listeners do, because that is just
Yeah, please
some of the
watch
best.
that.
Some of the wait, is Kiwi? Or is that like
He's
where you-
Aussie.
He's Aussie. Yeah, but still,
People
the
say
best.
it hasn't aged well, and it's a little
No, it's
a
aged
little
well.
dodgy,
Come
but it's
on.
great. It's great.
Come on, it's so good.
It is so good.
Yeah.
More to the point, this guy has a bad habit for drug-related violence. Danny, he's a naughty boy with a bad habit for drug-related violence. So let's just push that one home one more time. Anyway, he's a nasty piece of work, and the Cachiros use Valladares, El Tigre, to terrorize their rivals, using police raids as cover to kill several people at a time. In the most explosive example, Valladares takes part in a nightclub shootout in San Pedro Sula, which results in the deaths of a drug trafficking rival to the Chachiros, plus several members of the guy's security team. In 2004, the Chachiros fall out with El Coque. It's unknown exactly why. I've read that El Coque had killed a member of Javier and Davis's family, which, I mean, I guess that would cause a slight spat, but who knows among narcos. But whatever the truth, the Cachiros go firmly on the offensive. Sicarios first hunt El Coque down in San Pedro Sula. They fire 25 bullets into one of his cars, and they injure his girlfriend. Remember the girlfriend of the very powerful congressman. El Coque then flees to Cuba and then Costa Rica, where another team of hitmen track him down and fail to kill him for a second time. El Coque then heads to Panama, but he's arrested by Panamanian authorities and sent back to Honduras. And on his fourth day in jail, Sicarios burst into his cell and shoot El Coque 4 times, killing him.
All right, so let me backtrack with me for like a second here. The Cachiros work with Jaime Rosenthal in banking, but they also work with El Coque in cocaine, and they have an enforcer named El Tigre Valladares, who partners with them as well. So they're partner with everyone. These guys are just like, even though they're like these, what I assume like hillbilly types from like the jungle who are like cowboys, they're amazing networkers. And then they have this falling out with El Coque, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah, they're like the guys from Mozart. Like they're just they're kind of like rednecks who are just master manipulators. So they've got their guy at the top, Rosenthal, who's like dishing out loans and working on sort of like black finance.
The legitimate sort of legitimate.
Yeah, he's the crossover, and then they're also in bed with El Coque, but they decide, screw you for whatever reason, and they eventually get him. So they're getting way more powerful, right? And they are cooking. Here's Insight Crime, which has written a huge, like massive 20,000 word feature on their rise. Quote, the Cachiros took control of some of the most important cocaine routes along the isthmus. I hate that word. Colón is strategically located along the northeastern coastline. To the east is Gracias a Dios, thanks to God state. That's a cool name for a state. And to the south, Olancho. These 3 states have become some of the best landing areas for small aircraft carrying drugs from South America, in part because of the infrastructure left by the agro-export economy that once thrived in the area. So you can see they're kind of using the background, using their own nous to sort of get in. There is little state presence and vast stretches of land that are used to create makeshift clandestine airstrips. There are also large tracts of African palm plantations and other agro-industrial businesses that can help camouflage the storage and movement of illicit products. In addition, the coastline receives drugs by sea, ferried via go-fast boats and fishing vessels. So this vast expanse of land, right, it offers another key benefit for the Cachiros, which is tons of people struggling for work. Fishermen and boat operators can store product, refuel boats, and work as lookouts. The region is also home to a marginalized indigenous population whose homelands stretch between the Honduran and Nicaraguan borders, meaning they know the terrain of both countries well and they can slip across isolated bits of the border with no problem at all. Meaning that you now have an international cartel with backers in politics and big business, massive land holdings, connections to narcos in South and North America, and cocaine routes that have been perfected for decades. Continues Inside Crime again, quote, "The Cachiros' business model worked. They accumulated considerable wealth from their illicit project. Authorities gave wide-ranging estimates for how much cocaine moves through the Cachiros area of influence, but they agree that it is significant, or at least was significant at the group's height. At the low end, authorities said the group was moving between 1 and 2 tons per month. At the high end, they put it at between 4 and 5 tons a month. The range of monthly earnings was therefore between $2 and $12.5 million.
Which is high, but not like insane.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
they're not making like the Mexican money.
No. But to be clear, like they are just the transshipment point, right? So I assume, is it like Colombians or Venezuelans flying it in, and then from there, someone else like they're just basically holding it, or are they responsible for transporting it on into Mexico?
Yeah, both. They would do both. So over time, they're actually the logistics
Oh, so they were
guys.
like they were actually more than they were coordinating the shipments from South America into Mexico.
Yeah, it's like it's similar to
Not
what,
just holding it.
it's similar to what Ballesteros was doing, right? At first he was kind of gopher, and then he kind of like consolidated his position. And it's such a wild part of the world, right? And it needs to go through somewhere. So it's the same. I think the same happens today, right? No one really trusts a lot of the gangs in like Central America to actually do the big work.
Well, that was
for
the whole thing
cartels, right?
with MS-13 and all that. People were always like, "Oh, they're involved in the drug," but they really weren't, because they were not trusted by the cartels, both in South America, Colombian or Venezuelan, and Mexico, to like be responsible enough to hold the cocaine and not mess it up somehow.
And they weren't like buddies with the politicians as much, right? Whereas these guys, they got cover from
they
everyone.
eventually became tied in, but they were never huge transshipment point people.
Yeah. So these guys, they are. They're kind of like doubling down on this sort of niche that they have, and they're doing really well. So in 2009, Honduras enters another period of political turmoil when its leftist president, Manuel Zelaya, tries to rewrite the constitution to allow presidents the ability to serve more terms in office. Classic move. Something folks in this country might get better acquainted with pretty soon.
Then relax, Rachel Maddow. We'll be fine.
On the morning of July 28 that year, soldiers storm the presidential residence in Tegucigalpa, disarm security, wake up Zelaya. It's kind of hilarious because I think it's like 9 a.m. and put him on a plane to San Jose, which is the capital of Costa Rica. "I have been kidnapped," he tells a scrum of reporters. I like to think of him like looking like Wee Willie Winky in like a little hat and pajamas at this point.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, what?
Is this
It's like
British
a nursery
thing?
rhyme in Britain.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, there you go.
Runs through the town in his dressing gown. Yeah.
Don't know.
Anyway, that was way too British. He says he adds afterwards, violently, brutally kidnapped. Yeah, I just want him to be wearing his like dozy pajamas there. Later that day, Honduras' Supreme Court issues a statement that it has sent the military in to get rid of Zelaya, which is the country's first coup since 1978, which we covered in the Juan Matta Ballesteros episode. It then installs Roberto Micheletti as interim president, which is a move condemned by the international community.
Wait, so hold on. As someone who does not know a lot about Honduras' politics in general,
Do you know?
no, is this considered a coup? Like the guy, like in the negative sense, I guess in the negative sense, like this guy was overstaying his term, right?
Yeah,
So-
it's...
So isn't just this basically asserting? It's a bloodless coup in general, right? They take him out, no one gets hurt in the whole situation. He gets kidnapped in his little pajamas with the hat.
Yeah.
But like, is that really like a coup, or is it just like asserting the somewhat peaceful transfer of power?
So there's...
Like, why is it looked at so negatively?
I read an annoying amount about why they did it and like what the exact thing that he was trying to do is, and I've kind of condensed it here. But it was a bit more legalese. It's kind of a Rorschach test, right? If you're like a leftist, you think he's been like completely removed, like violently. If you are on the other side of the political spectrum, you think he's trying to snatch power.
What if you're a normal human being?
Oh, if you're normal, I mean, it's a coup, but a coup for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason was he was trying to stay in power longer than his term dictated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's like there's a whole bunch of political wrangling, and I'm sure there is a 10-part podcast on Honduran political history that people can listen to about that. But it's complex. But keeping things brief, right? And this is kind of like a bit of a tell that afterwards Micheletti installs a quasi-martial law. There's loads of protests in the capital city. He shuts down opposition media, which I don't understand why he would do that if it's just like a, removal of power for the right ideas. And he sends the army onto the streets. Zelaya then, this is great, he sneaks back into the country via a mountain pass. I mean, this is a guy that wears like a massive cowboy hat. Like he's, that kind of leftist like leader in Latin America. He sneaks back into the country via a mountain pass, and he holds himself up in the Brazilian embassy in Tegucigalpa, and he then tries from there to negotiate a return to power. And then Micheletti actually does declare martial law. I think it's like a state of exception or emergency, like similar to what Bukele has announced. And that November, there's an election, after which a conservative named Porfirio Lobo wins, who just so happens to be that dad of El Coque's girlfriend that we mentioned earlier.
Good plotting.
Yeah. For some, this is all seen as a rejection of Zelaya, who's left-leaning enough to be good pals with Venezuela's Hugo Chavez. But the vote in November also has like a 50% abstention rate, which ain't great. And other people see the whole thing as a return to 1978, which was when elites had pretty nakedly removed a leftist leader with the help of the military.
Okay, but was his term actually up?
Yeah.
Okay, so then he leaves, and then he comes back and he tries to overthrow the government when his term's up, and then I know. It's like yeah. I don't know. It's Chinatown. I don't like whoever you believe, whatever side of the political divide you're on, because we don't discriminate here. The 2009 coup has its biggest effect on Honduras' narco industry. So for starters, the affair prompts the White House to freeze $33 million in economic and military aid, which is a lot despite the money that's going through in drug money. And plus, Americans stopped working alongside Honduran counter-narcotics agents on intercepting boats or training Honduras' piss-poor air force. And thirdly, the coup and its aftermath, they forced Honduras' cops and military to station the majority of their officers in Tegucigalpa. So they all congregate in the center because there's so much protest. And the result of all of this is that there's basically just an open goal for the country's drug traffickers, and their empires soar. And I mean soar literally. In 2008, US authorities working alongside Honduran counterparts had noticed 31 suspect flights landing in Honduras from South America. I guess that's the ones they're catching anyway. By 2009, there are 54, and by 2010, post-coup, 75 planes are touching down on Honduran airstrips, refueling, and either getting sent back out to neighboring countries still laden with coke, or having the product ripped and thrown onto trucks or boats. A single-engine plane can carry 500 kilos of cocaine at a time, which is something in the region of 20 million street value back then. And a twin-engine plane can carry between 800 kilos and a ton, which is worth, it's double that, isn't it? Journalists can do maths sometimes. No, that's a lie. We can't. At this time, there is no shortage of narco rocking up in Honduras. Some are from Mexico, others are from Colombia or Venezuela. There's actually a really interesting story about this, club together Colombian Venezuelan crew that kind of pop in and then quickly sort of evaporate somehow in a couple of years. We could do that in another show, I'm sure. But at the time of the 2009 coup, the Cachiros were among the biggest, if not the biggest, already. They're not only running flights, but building entire new airstrips, complete with lighting and other facilities like proper actual airports. And as their profits ramp up, they get into more legit businesses, especially alongside Jaime Rosenthal and his Banco Continental. The Cachiros are still selling their cattle to the Rosenthal meatpacking firm. They're using Rosenthal logistics firms to sell their African palm. They secure a bunch of loans from Rosenthal's Banco Continental, and they're even joint partners on a zoo, right? Which is pretty crazy. They bought a zoo.
They bought a zoo. They bought a zoo. They even go in on the Colón soccer team, which is Real Sociedad de Tocoa, in a proud tradition of Latin American drug traffickers using the sport to launder cash going back decades. I think I mentioned that. There was one about Andres Escobar being killed in Colombia. It's like Escobar bought his own team, right?
Yeah.
And there's a couple of teams in Mexico.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's 1,000 teams in Mexico that Cartel own. Did that guy, the guy who went undercover as a footballer, the Uruguayan guy, did he buy a football team or did he just play for football
I think he
teams?
bought a team too.
Yeah.
And then put himself on the team.
Cool.
Which is what you should do
Yes.
if you're a drug trafficker. Like that I respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is cool. Maybe that's how
Buy
I
a
play football
professional
in South
team.
America.
Buy a professional team and put yourself on the team.
Yeah, good advice.
I think there's a story with like Prince or Sheikh or something like that doing that in the Middle East and put like his son on or something.
Oh yeah,
who, like, it was terrible.
Gaddafi did it. Gaddafi.
I think a more recent one did it. And the son was like terrible in every way. I think the Uruguayan guy was actually like pretty solid.
Yeah, he
like,
played like second division football.
Yeah, like
he was
not good enough to like actually play, but like could like somewhat hold his own a little bit.
I think Saadi Al Gaddafi played for Perugia, and that was the same time they had this crazy owner, and they sacked a Korean player after he scored against Italy in the World Cup, and also they signed a woman up front and played her, which is great. But it was an interesting time.
Good save,
yeah, and Russian people, yeah, I think their sons play for the teams. Anyway, guys, our sponsor, Asset, which is the wellness company dedicated to the other underworld, which is your butthole or bumhole, just launched a new product line targeting the biggest menace to back doors everywhere. Hemorrhoids.
You were just telling me that you've been having some issues.
Anyway, you don't need to be scared of the H word, Danny, like I am. Most adults deal with butt issues and recurring hemorrhoids and fissures. They can happen to everyone, and don't we both know that?
They're not enjoyable.
They are not. No.
Until now, the only option for relief, it's been like steroid-based creams that wreck your skin, just generally unpleasant things that are not enjoyable to use. And like, I feel like don't make as much of a difference.
Yeah. I mean, Whole Control is a game-changing, steroid-free solution from Asset. So homeopathic duo of Whole Control Cleanser and Whole Control Serum. We got them here. Should we hide them? Yep, hold them up. They contain higher concentrations of active botanicals that bring down swelling, relieve irritation, and restore damaged, angry skin. Can I use it? No. Traditional steroid cream can't be used for more than a few days at a time because they thin the skin, right? They're not great for that. And they can cause stretch marks and discoloration. Whole Control is a first of its kind dermatologist and OBGYN approved option that is effective and gentle, thorough for daily use.
And guys, be like Sean here, be brave. Don't be embarrassed to find a solution that's a pain in the butt. Take control of your comfort with the Whole Control Duo and get back to feeling yourself again.
Yeah, people always tell me, like, what was the scariest thing you've done on the front lines of wars or like organized crime reporting? I tell them it's taking control of my whole
of your whole narrative.
Yeah.
So today, guys, we're offering you 15% off your first purchase at thatasset.com/underworld. That's THATASSET.com/underworld, or use code underworld at checkout. Try their OG cleanser and serum, or go for Whole Control if you deal with reoccurring issues. Your butthole will thank you. That's thatasset.com/underworld.
So they even buy an eco park at this time, the Cachiros, right? They've got so many businesses and it's wrapped up with this bank owned by Rosenthal. Like they dig mines. They've still got the African palms. They've got firms in transport, gas. They're even making clothes. And neither do they let go of their OG cash cow, of course, like I just mentioned, which is literally cash from cows. And by this time, their cattle company is one of the biggest meat suppliers in all of Honduras.
I mean, like I said, my impression of these guys was that they're like these hillbillies, for lack of better, like, from the jungle. So it's super impressive that they're like able to pull all of this off and like figure it out.
Yeah, they are. Like they're completely uneducated. Like they come from nowhere.
And also, why not pull like the thing in every TV show about organized crime? Like you got all these legitimate businesses making a lot of money. Like why not at this point just like go clean?
Yeah, ditch
get
the
out.
gear.
Yeah, I don't get it.
They just like that cash. Anyway, yeah. Remember their top cop, the El Tigre Valladares? Well, he is on a rampage for them. So in October 2011, he orchestrates a shootout between the Chachiros and a rival drug faction, which leaves 6 dead. Soon afterwards, he helps Devis Cachiro kill 2 rivals by accusing them of murder and then kidnapping them, which is, I guess, the usefulness of having a cop on the payroll. Valladares also helps move drugs for the group, either via car or by securing airstrips himself. And police are also involved in an increasing number of targeted killings of farmers or activists by drug traffickers who want their land. And all of this, the political turmoil, The US aid withdrawal, the rise of the drug flights, and the co-opting of cops into the narco trade means that by 2011, Honduras holds a title that no country envies. It has the highest homicide rate on earth, with 93.2 people killed per 100,000, which that number is like almost actually genuinely unbelievable. It's double what the highest rate is today. Can you guess which country currently holds the title?
Jamaica or Brazil or South Africa?
Yeah, Jamaica.
Jamaica.
Got it right. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's people don't have good numbers on like I think Venezuela would be up there.
Yeah, probably.
Even though it's got a huge population, but then no one has good numbers.
Yeah. It's I mean, this 93.2 number is nuts, right? It's around 40% more than El Salvador in 2017, which is when MS-13 and Barrio 18 at 18th Street were at their kind of peaks of violence.
Line Sean Williams over here, just getting the facts wrong. No,
Is that
the
not
peak
true?
the peak was in 2015, and I know because I was there making a documentary called Gangs of El Salvador, which you should all watch on Vice News, and it was over 100 in 2015. I think it was like 103 to 106 was the murder rate in El Salvador at that time. Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh my God.
Because I think it was a country of like 5 million, 6 million. So you're talking like, I don't know, 20 murders a day in a country like that.
Holy shit.
My math might be off, but yeah, it was over 100 in 2015. Wild times.
It's always nice to get fact checked in real time. So you don't have to send those emails, guys. You could just leave.
Wait, what did you get wrong last episode? Something about the entertainer, right? Didn't they say?
Oh my God, the song, the entertainer.
Yeah, you gotta do your admission of.
Yeah, it's not. It's like the most famous American Showtime tune of all ever.
Yeah,
right. And I gave French people credit for it.
Yeah,
which
I mean, I didn't know any
makes
better,
me a little bit sick.
So it's kind of my fault too.
Yeah, it is your fault. Yeah.
That's what we do here. We correct ourselves. That's what we do.
At this time, so feel free to jump in if this is bullshit. But 4/5 of Honduran people rather do not believe that the police is capable of fighting the bloodshed, according to this regional survey. And 4/5 of Hondurans are correct. Obviously, 1/5 of Hondurans are insane. Says the country's Secretary of Security a couple of years later, quote, "We were in a crisis because the institution of the police had a crisis of credibility. The problem was so serious that we even analyzed scenarios to close the police."
Yeah, I mean, that triangle right there of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, I don't think people really understand like how brutal and bloody it was in like the 2010s. Just completely an insane, unprecedented level of like criminal violence that I think even today it's hard to even look at other places and compare it. It was nuts over there.
I can't think how that would ever be recreated as well, given, I mean, they reformed, there could always be terrible things happening, but I think in 2012 they do actually reform the police in Honduras, which is basically chucking out a load of the most sort of venal guys in the force, and they do kind of work with other countries to revamp. But yeah, like writes a UNODC report in 2012, quote, "Honduras' national murder rate in 2011 is one of the highest recorded in modern times. In 2009, President Zelaya of Honduras was deposed by the military. Local law enforcement fell into disarray. Resources were diverted to maintaining order, and United States counter-narcotics assistance was suspended. The result was a kind of cocaine gold rush. Flights from the Venezuelan-Colombian border to airstrips in Honduras skyrocketed, and a violent struggle began for control of this revivified drug artery. Revivified. Given new life, apparently. Genuinely new to me. That is shocking academic writing. All of these horrors and the increasing drug flights bring a new round of attention from the US. In 2012, the countries passed an extradition treaty for drug trafficking and terror offenses, which just so happens to coincide with the arrest of a major Cachiros member. By 2013, almost 90% of all cocaine smuggling flights from South America are landing in Honduras. And American authorities think that 90% of them are controlled by the Chachiros. And that year, Honduran officials, working once again with their American counterparts, they begin digging into the Cachiros empire, confiscating property, and estimating that the group is worth $800 million in assets. That's around half the entire value of Honduras' booming coffee industry, for example. Authorities also begin to take land, much of it stolen from farmers, by force. In May, the Obama administration formally identifies the Chachiros as a drug trafficking organization under the Kingpin Act. And this is when you know you're truly about to get screwed. 6 months later, the US Treasury said it's going after them too, prohibiting US citizens from any business with them and freezing assets in US jurisdictions. Suddenly, Cachiro-owned palm, mining, cattle, road building, and the zoo are sanctioned. And apparently all this comes as a shock to Jaime Rosenthal, who says that, quote, "We had no reason to believe that they were as devious as they turned out to be," which is actually quite a nice little sorry, not sorry thing. It's not saying he didn't know. These revelations seem to spark Honduran officials into an effort to purge Rosenthal from their elite circles, perhaps because he's genuinely been working with some of the country's most dangerous criminals for 30 years, or maybe because they're now in full survival mode themselves. They're desperate to cover their asses. In 2014, Honduras' Banking and Insurance Commission fines Banco Continental $500,000, I mean, whatever, for failing to check their clients' backgrounds, and US officials appear to hint they're about to go after the Rosenthals too. The institutions and the individuals who help or incite criminal organizations share the responsibility for the violence and the destruction that these groups have reaped on the people of Honduras, says the US ambassador to Honduras. Those who know they are helping launder money for corrupt people or terrorists should face long and costly legal procedures, sanctions, and sentences. What I'm saying is that if you are helping criminals, you are also criminals. President Porfirio Lobo holds his tongue this entire time, which is pretty incriminating. Whether or not he's in bed with the cartels, his administration has overseen the most catastrophic failure to rein them in, and one of the highest murder rates since like the Babylonian Empire. And then, in January 2015, Javier Rivera Madriga, aka Javier Cachiro, one of the Cachiros' two leaders alongside his brother Devis, hands himself in to officials at the US Embassy in Tegucigalpa. And Devis follows suit soon after. By January 26, Javier pleads guilty to drug trafficking, and both of them sing like birds about their friends in government, big business, and the police, you assume desperate for a reduced sentence.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how common that is, right? The actual leaders of the cartels, the guys behind most of the violence, just turning themselves in so they can snitch on their government, government, or business partners and just get less severe punishments.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it works or not in this case. We'll find out. And the arrests keep coming. In May 2015, in a sting operation alongside Haitian authorities, the US grabbed Fabio Lobo, the son of Porfirio Lobo, the president, who by now has lost his presidency in an election. And they'll sentence the son to 25 years for conspiring to import cocaine into the US. Says one of the prosecutors leading his case in New York, quote, "By his own admission, Fabio Lobo, great name, conspired to import huge quantities of cocaine into the US. To assist traffickers and enrich himself, Lobo used his father's position and his own connections to bring drug traffickers together with corrupt police and government officials." Now, I have a theory on this. I think they were trying to get Lobo the elder, and I think they deliberately did not get him because they didn't want to destabilize the country too much. But as we'll learn in whatever third episode we do about Honduras, they finally got cheesed off a few years after this as well. Quite famously. In October 2015, the US Justice Department officially points its finger at Jaime Rosenthal, his son Yanni, and his nephew Yankel as drug traffickers, adding that its Foreign Assets Control Office accuses the Banco Continental of being one of Central America's most significant money laundering operations. They arrest Yankel, the nephew, at Miami Airport, and they send him to NYC to face trial. Yanni Rosenthal, the son, he turns himself in at the end of the month. In 2017, Yankel, who had been Honduras' Minister of Investment, which is hilarious, pleads guilty to money laundering for the Cachiros. Yanni goes down with him. In 2019, Honduran officials seized most of the Rosenthal family's assets, including 7 businesses. And that same year, Jaime Rosenthal, the family patriarch, he dies, age 82, in San Pedro Sula. Writes Revista Envío, quote, "The news of the Rosenthals' connection to drug trafficking, especially to the family cartel known as Los Cachiros, was no surprise in Honduras. It was a well-known secret that their bank had been moving dirty money for years. Trustworthy testimonies by ordinary people abound about the discovery of bulging amounts of income with no record of the issuing entity when they would update their Banco Continental account. That is nuts, right? That's really crazy. We learned, this is them speaking, of one woman who discovered a deposit of 200,000 lempiras in her bank booklet and immediately went to the manager of that branch to return the money. Don't worry, lady, the manager assured her. You didn't have that money before, and now you do. Don't worry about where it came from. Just worry about using it for your own good. Things like this tended to happen in places where the drugs barons reigned. It was one of the ways they maintained the people's support.
That's patreon.com/the Underworld podcast. We also have Zelle, Cash App, whatever you need. Just, email us.
Yeah, do that. That's a great idea. And this article goes on, quote, after amassing a fortune through myriad businesses, hate the word myriad, during the second half of last century, the Rosenthal family, caught up in the dynamism surrounding the state's deteriorated institutional framework and the excessive greed for money permeating all areas of the economy into which they diversified their fortune, got in bed with the drug traffickers in this century. It was that decision that led to the collapse of their fortune. So Porfirio Lobo, the ex-president, somehow manages to stay out of prison. Like I said, I think it was a deliberate move. In October 2019, however, his wife, Rosa Elena, is arrested alongside her private secretary for a $4 million fraud. So everyone in this guy's life is corrupt, except for him, apparently. He's completely clean. Juan Carlos Ballesteros, a.k.a. El Tigre, the Cachiros man inside the police, he'll evade justice for several years longer, but in 2022, he is also extradited to the US, and in August 2024, he's sentenced to 19 years in prison, which actually seems like a pretty light term, given that he's actually been found guilty at this point for taking part in actual murders. Says a retired Honduran police commissioner, quote, "We had a government that was in criminal hands, which steered the destiny of the people, and El Tigre was its armed branch." Good quote. Take notes, UNODC.
Yeah, we really do have so many, Latin American officials and higher ups and authority figures and cartel guys and Caribbean too, in the U.S. police system right now. Yeah. I mean, in the U.S. police, in the prison set. I really wonder if there's a master list out there.
Yeah,
would be interesting to see.
Do you reckon the mess hall at Rikers is really good as a result? There's loads of these Latin American narcos flexing.
Not at Rikers, but
yeah, where do they go? They go to random ones in the Midwest and stuff, right?
Rikers is a jail, so if you're doing 30 years, you're not spending it at Rikers. Yeah, they're all what is it? The one in Indiana?
Oh yeah, there's one in Illinois that I think comes up a bunch.
Yeah, and
well.
then there's the one in the Supermax.
This is proper podcast chat.
Yeah,
there's that one somewhere. Yeah. Now we got to say, well, we love it or hate it.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah. So we're getting to the end of this show, right? The Honduras' murder rate continues to be the world's highest in 2012 and 2013. And then it drops by almost half in 2014. And in 2015, it falls off the top spot, beaten to the title by, like you said, El Salvador. He's taking photos of me in the studio. It's really weird. This is great news. And yes, this is coming to the conclusion of today's show. But despite all of these arrests, the work alongside US agents, the exposing of the link between narcos and the Chachiros and business titans like the Rosenthals and politicians like the Lobos, Honduras remains one of the key transshipment points in the Latin American drug trade. And that's at least partly because the guy who follows Lobo as president, Juan Orlando Hernandez, despite being a key ally of Washington, isn't quite the good guy he's made out to be. And yeah, I'm going to do a full show on him further down the line. But for now, what do you reckon? I don't know, maybe another year or so of doing these from our houses and no more studio? Or should I come here next week?
I like coming here, dude.
Yeah.
Great. The snacks alone are worth it.
Oh, those nachos, yeah.
Yeah, good episode, dude. Look at us. Look at the real life, charisma. What are we looking for?
Is that no one's not literally ever said that about me?
Not charisma.
Ever in my life.
The real life chemistry.
Yeah.
In person.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/Underworld Podcast. And thank you guys for tuning in.